Okay, yes, y'all. Welcome to another episode of Trenny and C. Today,
Oh, I thought you were going to introduce yourself, and I thought you couldn't remember your name.
I'm Trenny. This is C.
Hello.
And today we have Tin Cup Bourbon?
American whiskey.
American whiskey.
But it's really bourbon.
Yeah.
So I don't know why they're not calling it bourbon.
No. Anyways.
Trenny and C, drinking whiskey, describing all the flavors for you and me. Irish, Scotch, bourbon, and rye. If they like a bottle, they'll tell you why.
Okay, Tin Cup whiskey. American whiskey. Let's pour ourselves a glass. What do you think about that?
I think, yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's a good idea.
Good. So it's got this cool little
Tin cup.
tin cup. It's like a shot glass kind of thing.
So look at that there.
Yeah.
Yeah, look.
I think it's the idea behind this. That's what they used to drink their whiskey out of in the old gold mining days.
To salute to the first whiskey drinkers of Colorado, apparently. So it says.
Yeah, I mean, when they were mining tin, they made their
The
cups,
old-
and
the
then
old
they were
tin mines.
and then they were mining their gold. Anyway,
It's a bit gimmicky. That's okay.
whatever. I kind of like the shape of the bottle. The bottle's cool because I'm guessing the old, tin miners, they would drop the whiskey and it wouldn't be able to roll down the hill.
We have the thought of everything.
Thought of everything. Those old guys coming up with this
Yeah.
bottle style, obviously. Anyway, okay. So why don't you tell us about the our scale here?
Trinity and C scale. Obviously, we have color, nose, taste, finish, and viscosity. So we'll rate it a perfect score, 33.33. Hasn't been achieved yet.
Probably never will.
Maybe today.
Maybe. Probably not.
We'll tell you. We already know it's not happening.
Yeah,
but
we've
that's
tasted
fine.
it a few times already. But so obviously starting with color, it's it's nice. It's a nice color.
It's a little golden
Kind of
brown.
Golden brown. I think
Golden
that's
brown.
what I wrote down. Let's see. I wrote melted honey and golden brown.
Okay.
Kind of looks like if you
Sure.
put honey in a microwave and
Yeah.
maybe turn into that. Anyway, cool. Let's maybe
No,
smell the damn stuff.
Smell it.
So because this whiskey is a higher rye content than a lot of typical bourbons, so it does instantly kind of have that peppery, spicy nose to it.
And that's probably why they're calling it an American whiskey, because it's got the technicalities to make it a bourbon, but really they're kind of almost aiming for a rye too. So
Yeah.
I guess they don't want to pigeonhole themselves into that bourbon category. So
Yeah.
maybe they're just going for that unique angle, bit of a bourbon rye blend.
Which I think, I assume must mean it does actually still have a 51% corn ratio, and then the rest of this whiskey is made up of rye and some malted barley. Which the malted barley profiles, you can definitely smell it and taste it, which is kind of nice. It's something unique.
And it's my understanding that this is a blend of a couple of different whiskeys that have been put together in.
Mm-hmm. So the master distiller doesn't necessarily make everything that goes into this bottle. He probably makes the corn bill part of it, and then he sources the other grained whiskeys.
Yeah, perhaps.
And he's essentially the master blender over
Yeah,
the
right.
master distiller.
Yeah,
But if we're wrong, tell us. I think we're
that's
right.
fine.
Anyway.
We're smelling it.
Yeah, we were smelling it.
We already colored it. We're smelling it.
So like I said, I kind of got a pepper note out of it. Some honey.
It's definitely sweet. You
It's
can smell
sweet,
you can
but
smell the sweetness.
You can smell the sweetness, but I think a part of the oak that comes from it is almost like a sawdust sort of smell to it. I've spent a little bit of time with this one, and that flavor kept popping up as that nice sawdust smell.
But I was also getting kind of a more of a fruit, like apple pear
Yep.
as well from it myself.
And with a little bit on the nose, I do get this apple cider vinegar smell, which is actually quite nice. There's nothing wrong with that. It's not in a negative way. It balances well with the sweet and the spice. So
Let's taste it.
yeah. I find that the taste is it's sweeter on the arrival than if the sweetness is up here, it kind of diminishes into the spice and the dry. But it's quite nice actually.
To me, it tastes like a rye.
Yeah.
It's got the sweetness of a bourbon, but it tastes like a rye. Like you can taste the grain there for sure.
Mm-hmm. It's got that sweet honey, oak, sugar, and spices.
And this is where I got a bit of a interesting tasting note. Kind of when you said apple cider vinegar, I almost had like and not in a bad way, but almost like a pickled, vinegar taste, kind of at the end there. And maybe that's more of a finish note, but still.
Mm-hmm. I do get this slight metallic taste to it.
The tin cup.
The tin cup.
That's the tin cup.
The tin. They distill the tin. You see.
Yeah.
No, that's wrong. Okay. Anyway,
And we should say it is 42% alcohol.
42% alcohol, which is it's kind of a different bottling strength.
But it also kind of it keeps it's not punchy, it's not strong. It's got a mildness to it, a lightness to it because of that.
Yeah, and so with this though, I personally find with whiskeys that have a higher rye content, if I add a little bit of water, the sweetness comes out quite a bit, and some rye style whiskeys do better with more water. I actually, by mistake, when I was tasting this a couple of nights ago, I poured more water than I intended into, and it ended up, the flavors held together quite well, but the sweetness was there on the finish, and I really, really liked that. So, I mean, it's a personal preference for people, but I do find on my personal taste that I like more water in my rye style whiskeys.
Which I think we found in some of the other ryes that we've reviewed as well. Like I think that the Northern Harvest held up well to water too.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
So we've kind of already got into finish there a little bit.
Yeah.
Which I'm getting a little bit more of the oak on the finish.
Yeah,
myself.
I could see that for sure.
Little light smoke and definitely the spice. The spice is still happening there on the finish.
Yeah, it's kind of stuck, just like the arrival. It just the finish is sweet and goes sort of dry and spicy.
I guess the thing for me is that are they confused about what they are?
With style, they kind of
because it kind of, I get the feeling of like I'm confused.
Yeah, it's a little muddled.
More than usual.
It's a little muddled for a whiskey, but it is unique, and I think the more you kind of get into the flavors, and I've drinking a little bit of this, and there is some unique flavors in there, and I think you could probably put it next to a couple of different rye whiskeys and be able to pick it out. So, for better or worse, I mean, I think that's a good thing if you want to be picked out of a crowd,
and
especially
which is
in the
clearly
mass market.
what they've aimed for.
Yeah.
So maybe success then.
Yeah. So I mean, it may be a little bit muddled, and they don't know what their profile is exactly.
So if you were ever, I love bourbon, but I love rye the same. If only they made a rye bourbon.
Yeah. Well, that's probably be the one for you. And I gotta just say, one thing that's kind of interesting on the bottle is it says the elevation is 5,657 feet above sea level. So one thing that means a lot of the time, like for example in Scotland, a lot of the Highland malts pick up a bit of that. They kind of have similar characteristics as distilleries right beside the sea, where they kind of pick up a bit of that sea salt flavor, and I do get a little bit of that sea salt flavor in that.
Yeah, actually, that's an interesting point that I taste that as well, like a little salt finish there too. Yeah.
So, And also because it's bottled in Colorado, that again, it's a really high elevation. The air's much thinner up there, so I'm guessing the spirit probably ages quite a lot quicker, especially if they have to keep the warehouses warmer. I'm not exactly sure what they would do with this place. I mean, well, I'm not exactly sure how many years this whiskey is. There's no age statement on it or anything like that, but it is behaving like something at least 6 to 8 years old.
Yeah, and because they don't call it a straight bourbon or anything like that, we don't know what the minimum age is, do we?
No,
Like, there's not really any way to kind of
I think
decipher that.
the only thing that I could guess is by the color, and it's not really all that dark, so maybe it is only a few years old. But you never know if the state laws might be a little bit different and they're allowed to add coloring or. Anyways, you guys research that for us.
Yeah, you tell us.
Yeah, we're not going to research that.
Scale, where are we at? Numbers.
Okay,
Let's
also,
talk numbers.
let's talk viscosity first.
Oh.
With our final thing, and I just wrote down slightly oily, coats the mouth with a light syrup.
Yeah, it's
Finish.
light and mild.
Yeah, it's an easy drinker. I
Yeah.
think.
Yeah.
Okay, so on the scale, I rated it at 22.35 out of 33, and C rated it at 21.58, which ended up becoming a 21.96 out of 33.
Pretty much a 22. Really,
So yeah, it's basically a 22.
rounds up to a 22.
I think this is one that the more time you spend with it, the more you get to know it, and you kind of become a little bit more compatible.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
got to be a personal preference, kind of a
Mhm.
personal style kind of whiskey. If that's your thing, you might rate it even higher.
Yeah, so I think definitely go out and buy it and try this whiskey because it's maybe not be for everybody. I mean, compared to a bourbon, it's definitely has a lot spicier, of a
traditional
feel
bourbon,
to it. So anyway, try it out. It's unique and it's something cool to have in your cupboard.
Yeah, and the bottle won't roll away.
Yeah, exactly.
What
Okay.
more can you ask?
Cheers.